Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and maybe 40 other countries, Minister, looking to join the BRICS strategic partnership, this strategic alliance that is it's growing legs faster than many people even imagined. Over recent years, BRICS was a nice idea. The African Investment and Infrastructure Bank, for example, you know, the New Development Bank as well. The BRICS, it was a great idea. And then it kind of went a bit quiet for a few years, or perhaps a bit behind the scenes. But now look what's happening to BRICS. Minister Pandor, every week there's a new development with the BRICS family. More and more countries looking to join. It's almost like a new front line of being a pioneer, I think. As China said when Xi Jinping was in Moscow a few months ago, we are witnessing the biggest changes in 100 years, and Russia and China are driving these changes. Now, that's what he said. But look at the BRICS, Minister. Or this coagulation of very strategic countries around the world, whether all these countries want to join, you know, Saudi Arabia wants to join, for example, energy-rich nations want to join, nations representing the labour workforces of the world want to join, nations representing the most geostrategic ports want to join. Minister Pandor, what does BRICS mean today for this world that's been so set with a Western hegemon? And now we're looking at what is this sudden growth in this multipolarity. Minister, what is going on with BRICS? It's a big part of you and your country as well.
Absolutely. We're discussing expansion, which is very exciting. But I think really well done to BRICS on the New Development Bank. It's a bank that is working. We have very positive rating in the world financial rating terms. And we've made significant contributions to infrastructure investment and support in the post-COVID era to all the BRICS member states. And what is fantastic, we've grown from the 5 to 3 additional members, so we're now 8. And my anticipation is more will join the bank as more members come on. But of course, the decision of expansion is not mine. It will be the heads of state in August who will determine. We've done our work as the foreign ministers and have developed a clear set of guiding principles which we think will assist our leaders as they make a decision. But why? Why do people want to be part of BRICS? BRICS is a fresh forum. It's progressive in ideals. It seeks to focus on peace, security, and development. We're not standing against anyone. We're not standing for anybody. We work for the good of the world. And I think you need a body of that nature. So everybody is interested in BRICS because they can see something different is happening. We're not seeking to weaponize the oceans. We're not seeking to weaponize the forests. We're not seeking to weaponize climate change. We want to work in concert to address key development issues. And I think that is the attraction that BRICS has for so many countries. I'm actually spending a lot of my time having to reply to countries that want to know when.
I can only imagine. The interest is growing by the day. Like I said, Minister, every week there's a new development with the BRICS family, and there's so many dozens of countries looking to join. I have to ask you this. Professionally and personally, I find it a fascinating story. The BRICS summit is in August, and there's an awful lot of talk. There's an awful lot of talk, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's an awful lot of talk about a potential BRICS currency, a commodity-backed currency or a gold-backed currency. Now, personally, my opinion is things like this take an awful lot of time. An awful lot of time. If you look at the European Union, how many countries had to settle on a euro, for example, and these big disparities between smaller economies and bigger economies, it's complicated. But some people are talking about the BRICS R5 currencies, the renminbi, the rial, the rupee, and so forth. A lot of people out there are hopeful for an announcement about this possible new currency at the summit in August. Is there anything, Minister, you can tell us?
Well, I understand the president of the New Development Bank is going to address the leaders on this very subject, and we hope she'll give us some sense of what the future looks like. I do think we need to have greater fairness in world trade, and we need to ensure, again, that financial systems and institutions are not politicized to a level that they become a barrier to trade. So having greater diversity is extremely important, because once you attach to one currency or one system, you then become somewhat of a hostage. And that's what we've got to end. We have to have fair trade, proper systems, financial security, but you can't be tied to one. And the moment is probably now to consider alternatives. So I'm hoping that we'll get direction from the BRICS summit. But I believe this is something that is not the expertise of ministers of foreign affairs. That's why we'll rely on the president of the bank and eventually the finance ministers of BRICS to give us a sense of what is possible. But as I said, given the whirlwind in the world today, the moment for change is now. The moment to consider new is now.
I was going to ask you, okay, yes, there is whirlwind in the world today. I get that. There are hot spots and conflict zones, but why? Why is now such a good time for change, do you think, Minister?
Well, I think for the first time, the hostility between nations and between powerful forces in the world has come out into the open. The trade war between the United States and China, two very big powers in the world, is out in the open. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, the role of NATO within it. So suddenly, very powerful elements are facing each other. And we are going to have to find answers in that context. And the answers are not going to be what we know. The answers have to be a refresh, in my humble opinion.
There's so much movement in the world today when you talk about the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the ASEAN, the Global South, of course, the African continent. Some people refer to these groups as a de-dollarization coalition. They're moving away from the American dollar. Now, yes, it's been the reserve currency essentially since the Great Patriotic War, the Second World War, but countries are diversifying away from the dollar. They're increasing trade in national currencies. It's almost like every week, Minister, we have a new development with new countries coagulating together to form this de-dollarization coalition. Why is this happening, and why now?
Well, I think part of it is that there's this sense, as I said, of being held hostage and a desire to be free from such a feeling. I notice you mention all the regions, but you don't mention Africa. And it's very, very important that you do factor us in, because we are an incredibly important part of the world. Of course, we hold those important mineral resources which are of such significance to ongoing world development. So don't factor Africa out. It's critical that you don't. Nevertheless, I do feel that one has to be judicious or careful about having too many organizations, because then you lay the basis for conflict rather than for cooperation. So I think a point will have to come where these various organizations actually speak to each other about a convergence and how that is arrived at. And I believe BRICS might be a very important vehicle for such a convergence.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to say. I mean, for example, like when I say the Global South, I'm certainly not omitting the Africa at all. When I say BRICS, I'm also talking about Africa in a very big way, because I read a report from Moscow the other day. Now, maybe I'm wrong, Minister, but I read a report that said every African nation has been invited to join BRICS. Do you know about that?
No.
This is not true?
No, we don't invite to join. At the moment, we do have an outreach component of the BRICS activities. The outreach includes invitations to heads of regional organizations worldwide, as well as normally if South Africa is the chair, to all African leaders. So we have invited the heads of state, as well as heads of regional bodies such as the Gulf Council, ASEAN, and so on. So this is a normal process that all of us follow when we are chair of the BRICS Forum.
When it comes to the Russia-Africa summit happening for the next few days here in what we like to call the Venice of the North here in St. Petersburg, and it's such a beautiful city, and it's a great time of the year. It's a bit cloudy today, admittedly, Minister, but it has been a beautiful summer so far. This is one of those rare opportunities to get people to the same table, to get everyone under the same canopy to discuss common goals. Can you give me a little teaser as to are there any surprises or secrets in your back pocket that you want to unveil at this summit? Any major concerns, any new plans, any new initiatives that perhaps you can just give me a secret little hint as to what might be coming up?
Foreign ministers always have secrets in their back pockets.
I'm sure.
No, I think that, the world is at a worrying moment, and I don't want to underplay the threat that faces us as the global community if we're unable to resolve current challenges. We are worried as the continent on the issue of food security, for example. So the grain initiative is very important, and we would want to see this resolved in a manner that addresses both the concerns of Russia as well as the concerns of the African continent. So these are issues that we would like to have greater deliberation on. I often raise this concern about grain exports with my colleagues and about the impact of unilateral sanctions, which are sanctions that don't come through the United Nations system, but are imposed by individual countries on other countries. And when I tell friends that these unilateral sanctions always have awful secondary effects, particularly for developing countries, they say to me, but we don't have sanctions on food. We don't have sanctions on this. And I say, but we are feeling the impact. So I do think we need to resolve all the issues related to matters of food security. And that would be part of, I think, the more important sideline discussions that will take place here. I also think matters of trade are going to enjoy a great deal of prominence. And increasingly, issues of digital economy, digital security are becoming global matters that we have to have some agreement on because, to stop cyber attacks, to ensure cyber security, we have to cooperate, we must share resources. So those would be important discussions. I see our security advisors are meeting, so we look forward to hearing what comes out of their deliberations as well. And all of us have fairly large business delegations, so hoping that some contracts will be signed.
When you talk about the Black Sea Corridor, the grain initiative, as I understand, Moscow has said that the grain initiative has only been temporarily suspended. It has not been closed, and the Kremlin has said that it is open to find a way to further negotiate the resumption of the grain passage in the Black Sea Corridor. Now, Lady Pandor, the Foreign Minister of South Africa, I could talk to you all day. It's been so enlightening, really fascinating, and we're so proud to have you here in St. Petersburg for this summit. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.